Vladimir Putin posing in a nuclear-capable strategic bomber. A US ballistic missile submarine showing up at the shores of Gibraltar. And a construction site in the middle of the Chinese desert. New silos for intercontinental ballistic missiles. Dozens of them.
Not only this, China is investing billions of dollars on proliferating the nuclear warheads, as well as it is developing various intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can revolve whole Earth at once, as well as it is nuclear powered. Russia is directly threatening that it will going to use the nuclear weapons on Ukraine. USA and UK providing nuclear powered submarine to the Australia means if it dive into the ocean at once, it can be there for 30 long years without refueling. Japan and South Korea have a latent nuclear capability, means within a given amount of short span of time, it can able to enrich uranium more than 20% so that it can able to extract weapon grade nuclear materials from nuclear fission process. Iran is trying its level best to gain the nuclear power, but due to some geopolitical compulsion, it could not able to do so. For North Korea, nuclear power is quintessential rather than food fodder and life of their own people. All these gradual changes in the geopolitical scenarios, will they fetch any nuclear war in the future time? War does not start within 1 or 2 days. Rather,
that the war does not start the way you start fighting. It starts the day you start planning.
rise of China is threat to the whole world. It is militarizing the South China Sea. It is providing nuclear weapons to the Pakistan, and it is its expansionist policies towards the India is threat to the peace of whole world. China is living under its delusional ancient glory, portraying itself as a middle kingdom or a tributary system. Such kind of approach towards the global system is always threat to the peace of whole world as well as China. For example, 1856 war against the British and 1894 war against the Japan. In English, one saying is that history not only repeats itself, but it echoes over and over again with the different tunings. So today in this video, let us see how historically nuclear power have been evolved, as well as what are the contemporary challenges to nuclear order. And today in this video, based on the historical and present geopolitical context, what may be the future threat from nuclear power. And if you are very much curiosity to know about the global politics, stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's begin. In 1945, USA tested the nuclear bombs for the first and last time on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And in the next 4 years, US was the only country who had access to nuclear weapons. In 1949, USSR gained the technological supremacy. 1952 by the UK, 1960 by the France, and 1964 by China tested the nuclear weapons. So this process is called as horizontal proliferation. In 1966, a survey was conducted. As per this, in the next 2 decades, nuclear proliferation will increase to more than 40 countries. So to limit this, in 1968, a treaty was called upon. It was one of the most successful, highly discriminatory and much needed treaty of the time, and it is Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It was highly successful because more than 191 countries signed it. It was much needed because to prevent the nuclear proliferation over the time, and it was highly discriminatory because these 5 countries are its permanent members. They can increase that nuclear weapons to any extent. Now you are seeing the chart on the screen how the nuclear proliferation went on over the time. You might be thinking that why still 191 countries signed it? Because from these 5 countries, they could able to access the nuclear technology for peaceful purposes such as producing electricity. Fortunately, India did not sign the agreement by saying that China is our hostile neighbor. If we sign the agreement, we will going to compromise the national security. So all this framework is called as nuclear order. So order is nothing but an arrangement through rules and regulation to maintain the discipline in the system. If I have to tell you in a very layman term, let us take a school. In the school also there are orders. For example, you can't go to 7th standard after skipping the 5th standard. So there are rules and regulation to maintain the discipline in the class. But there are 4-5 average students of the teacher who are exception to the rules and regulation. The same analogy resembles in the international system in a very strategic manner. These 5 countries who have a permanent members of nuclear order, but antagonism within them is a greater challenge to nuclear order. Before delving into this topic, let us see why all the countries wants to hold the nuclear weapons. One of the major advantages of having nuclear weapon is that it provides greatest deterrence. Deterrence means creation of fear. For example, when one person having gun and one more person not having gun, they rarely fight with each other. Here, gun acts as a deterrence. So it is very much true in international system where nuclear weapons acts as a deterrence. So when there are two nuclear weapon states, they rarely go for a war because of mutually assured destruction. Means if they put bombs on each other, they both have equivalent repercussion on their economy, polity and society. So war is never the choice. So in the last 7 decades, these two psychological concepts, deterrence and mutually assured destruction, played a key role in promoting the peace in the international system. So many diplomats and scholars believe that nuclear weapons can create a greatest peace in international system. But as far as my opinion is concerned, these ideas are not sustainable when we take the history and the future in a very macro scale. Now let us see, based on our historical learnings and present geopolitical trends, how will various countries going to pursue their nuclear power and capability to meet their strategic ends in the future times. Pakistan claims that it has more number of nuclear weapons than India. Should India be bothered about it? Definitely not. Having nuclear weapon and delivering the nuclear weapon is completely a different ball game. To deliver the nuclear weapon in the present context of technology, one needs either hypersonic missiles or submarine launched ballistic missiles or a strategic bombers, and Pakistan have none of this. On the other hand, India have advanced air defense mechanisms such as S-400, Prithvi, Pradyumna, Ashwin and many others. So we should not bother much about the Pakistan's nuclear rhetorics. Then comes the major threat to the world, that is North Korea. And in 2021-22, it tested many hypersonic missiles. Since it is a deep state or a secret state, there is a much ambiguity regarding its nuclear power capability. Next comes the Iran, which is experimenting to gain the weapon-grade nuclear material from the fission process. But an earthquake cannot be claimed as a nuclear test. But when nuclear test happens, a large fumes comes out of the Earth's surface and it can be easily detected by the satellite. If it could able to achieve the weapon grade nuclear material, it will radically alter the balance of equilibrium in the region. Many Sunni dominated countries such as Qatar, UAE and many other Arab states, it will going to be as aggressive as Israel against Iran. Now comes the Russia. From 2021, it is claiming that it will going to use nuclear weapon against Ukraine. But I am 100% sure that it will not going to do so. If it wants to use the nuclear weapons, it has two choices. The first option is that usage of mega nuclear bombs such as 15 to 30 megatons of nuclear bombs. It has a huge repercussion on Eastern Europe and Russian region itself, and its radiation will largely impact the Black Sea marine resources. So the second option is usage of small nuclear bombs. If it use the small nuclear bombs, victory may not ensure, as well as there is always consistent threat from Ukraine that in the future times it may take revenge against Russia. So these two options are not valid. So third option is usage of nuclear weapons to create optimum deterrence against the Ukraine. In the present time, China have a very clear-cut vision to dominate whole world. For that to happen, it needs to aggrandize its influence in the strategic regions of Asia, and one of them is South China Sea. Now it is claiming that whole South China Sea as its own, and it is occupying many islands in the region. And if it could able to do so, it can able to control whole trade of Asia. Before controlling whole South China Sea, it needs to control the Taiwanian region, which is governed by the separate government. So it is militarizing whole South China Sea like never before. Now you can see that USA has more than hundreds of military bases in the region. Many other countries such as Japan, South Korea have historical rivalries with China. So to occupy the Taiwan in the future times, China may use nuclear weapons more than a deterrence. That's why it is developing many nuclear submarines as well as many hypersonic missiles. In the future time, China may use nuclear blockade strategy to occupy Taiwan. Means to occupy whole Taiwan region by blocking the nuclear weapons so that any other power could not able to enter and protect the Taiwan. Historically, when we look at the international system, mainly in the European region, when there was estrangement between two established power and one power wants to dominate whole system, it ended up with a chaotic war. It may be a Napoleonic France or a German during World War I or Japan during World War II. But in the present time, it is a globalized and the technological era, and it is a very complex interdependent system. So prediction of nuclear war is very much difficult. But only time and China can say answer for all the questions.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.